This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody.
1, 2, 3, let me go.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I'm Billy Embody. Thanks for listening, previewing SMU-North Texas and putting a wrap on what happened down in Houston for SMU in the 36-31 win over Rice. We covered a lot of ground on the postgame after Stang's show, so not going to spend too much time breaking down the game. I really do feel like that was a game that SMU could have really rolled, but special teams kind of set them back a little bit. We had some practice notes on how the Mustangs are dealing with special teams and making them, once again, a focus down the stretch of this season to ensure that or at least best they can, doesn't happen again. But all eyes this week will be on Preston Stone's status. We'll touch on that in a minute. But first, guys, we've got to jump into the college football playoff. And the reason why is Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports, a friend of the program, reported that one of the big focal points of this week's meetings in Dallas as the CFP committee comes together on Thursday, as many of you are probably listening to this, they've got to look for a new executive director as Bill Hancock retires. They've got to look at the 12-team format and maybe some changes to that. But more importantly, and this is really involving SMU, is the revenue sharing. So SMU jumped up from the group of 5 ranks to the Power 5 ranks. And now, instead of potentially getting a full share of the college football playoff, that might be on the chopping block for SMU, in part because a new Power 5 team has been added in SMU. Yes, we saw Houston. Yes, we saw Cincinnati, BYU, and UCF get added. But those are now already in, and it seems like many of the schools are trying to potentially thwart any more adds to the Power 5 ranks. And the reason why they would do this is because there will be reductions in revenue share among the college football playoff payout per school. Right now, it's divided up among the conferences in terms of the number of teams that they have, and then it's all distributed out, and it's about $5 to $6 million right now. Now, there's 2 more years left, I believe, on a TV deal, maybe 1. So we'll be seeing some changes on that in the coming years. Yes, 2 more years, and that will have to be renegotiated because the college football playoff will be a 12-team format at that point. But one thing that they are discussing is potentially that payout for SMU. Will it be a full share? And while it's significant in the sense that SMU is counting on that $5 to $6 million from the college football playoff, that is a part of the roughly $10 million in ACC money from ancillary revenue that SMU is expecting to get going into the league. Again, an upgrade over what the American currently pays SMU. But if you drop that $5 million mark, then you are sitting there for SMU technically in the red in terms of where you go from TV revenue for the American to the ACC. You would lose $2 million roughly a year in revenue. That doesn't come into your program and your athletic department. So what would that mean? If that revenue went away because SMU has foregone 9 years of ACC revenue, that would mean roughly $45 million that SMU would maybe potentially need to pick up from its donors. So just a bigger bill. Again, I don't think it's as big of a deal, but let's not discount that it is $5 million that SMU would either have to raise, or they would have to just kind of look at it and say, okay, that's just, the price of doing business at this level. They're into the ACC. It's not going to impact their recruiting. It's not going to impact their ability to run these programs. SMU is in this. They are completely invested. And no matter what happens with this decision in terms of SMU's final revenue, and if you boil it down to the schools around the Power Five, $5 million that SMU is going to get, I mean, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. Maybe I think the math is really wrong on that too. But that's what would it be? It would be if you did $100,000, it would be 10 schools. Yeah, I mean, probably $100,000 a school that they're missing out on. If again, my math is all right, and so I'm intrigued to see what they do with SMU's revenue from the college football playoff. Obviously, the schools and the conferences can nix that payout as a shift has occurred, but we'll be keeping an eye on it. I don't think it's a huge deal, but it at the end of the day would be $45 million over 9 years that SMU's counting on, and that's before the new TV deal. Now, the new TV deal is not expected to really raise the money even more because they are going to have to pay for games and other expenses that go along with expanding the playoff to 12 teams and having these other games that are going to be involved with the college football playoff. But it is something worth noting. SMU potentially going to have to go out and find a little bit more revenue, however they do it, which is probably passing the hat around, as we know. But so that was probably a piece of news that we'll be watching on Thursday. And again, Ross Dellinger reported that from Yahoo Sports. So figured I'd address it, kind of give my take just in case it does happen. Guys, before we go any further, I got to tell you about our friends at HelloFresh. And they are absolutely killing it right now. The holidays are that perfect time to get on board with HelloFresh. A lot of people are going to be in and out of your house. You need some easy meals to make happen during the holiday season. And it's right around the corner. And HelloFresh can take that stress away from making dinner, making lunch, making breakfast for your family or just you and your own. And they deliver everything you need to cook up a tasty meal right to your door, saving you tons of time. You don't have to go to the store and figure out, all right, am I going to get this, get that? They already have it portioned out. You don't have to go in and guess kind of, okay, all right, I've got to pick up this seasoning, that, whatever. It's all in the box. And I tell you what, we had for dinner recently the creamy dill pork tenderloin with couscous and green beans. And I tell you what, guys, when the sauce for this couscous and pork tenderloin was out of this world. My wife and I loved it. And again, everything is already portioned out, whether it's the steak or meat that you have in there, whether it's your vegetables, whether it's the salt, the pepper, all those things are already done for you. So it's the perfect way to make meals easy and fun. I mean, I like cooking, but again, it's kind of always that whole let's get all the ingredients together. And then maybe by the end of the week, it's kind of a waste. So HelloFresh's ingredients travel from the farm to your door so they're fresh, and everything arrives, again, pre-portioned so you can get to cooking right away. And again, my wife and I, we love doing this. She's pregnant right now, so we're also trying to eat healthy, and HelloFresh has healthy options for you if you're trying to go down that route. So be sure to check them out, HelloFresh. And the great part is they're now including breakfast. If you go to HelloFresh.com/ponyfree, PONYFREE, and use code ponyfree for free breakfast for life. That is one breakfast item per box while your subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/ponyfree using that code ponyfree. Check out America's #1 meal kit. That's HelloFresh. Our friends over there just do an incredible job. We love them. Great partner of the program. So check them out. HelloFresh.com/ponyfree. We jump into the injury updates for SMU now as they go to Rice and they get a few injuries that were pretty critical. Preston Stone leaving the game early in the fourth quarter. He's in concussion protocol. Per Rhett Lashley this week, he said he is going to basically be a game time decision. He was not out of the protocol, which means Kevin Jennings was taking the majority of the first team reps this week, getting ready to go, potentially starting against North Texas Friday at 8 o'clock in Ford Stadium. And Kevin Jennings has been calm, cool, and collected throughout any of his opportunities for the most part that he has had at SMU. So I trust he's going to be ready to go if need be. If Preston Stone is ready come game time on Friday, we'll see him. But I do get the sense that with the short week, Preston's got to be ready to go on Thursday. He's got to be ready to go on Friday. It's just one of those things that I would think at best, I would say, and this is just my guess, I just think Kevin's going to start because he's had the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday reps. Then you get to Thursday. I mean, Preston's out there. He's watching. He was fully suited up earlier this week, so that is worth noting. Again, we don't see in practice, but him being out there is a good sign. So he can take the mental reps. He can do all those things. He's been in the film room, and he's been helping Kevin Jennings get ready for the start on Friday if he is the one that starts. And Rhett Lashley had a little fun with us just kind of talking about that. You could tell there's certainly I don't think he's keeping anything, but anytime it's a question about it, it's, well, if he starts, not that he is, and things like that. So Preston looks to be doing pretty well. He's just in the concussion protocol, which is out of the coach's hands in terms of how they deal with that. When it comes to the receiving targets for SMU, bad news on Jordan Curley. And I tell you, I feel so badly for him. His college career now cut short with a torn ACL, suffered non-contact blocking against Rice. And, SMU, as much as we've talked about these receivers and how you're waiting for one to truly step up into an alpha role, I mean, Jordan Curley is one of the hardest working guys on this team. He spends the extra time. And to see his career end at the college level like this, and it's now going to impact his draft process and just landing on NFL rosters, because, look, guys, I know it hasn't been what everybody thought it was going to be, including me, for Jordan Curley going into this year. I thought he was going to absolutely just take over and be that next guy up for SMU, but he's still got talent. He's still got speed. He's ran into the injury bug a lot through his college career, but you hate to see it end this way. And so with that, Jordan Hudson is going to be on his side of the offense, it looks like, with Keyshawn Smith from what the depth chart said. So Jordan Hudson coming off a game where he caught a touchdown, showed his physicality, continues to improve. He's going to get his shot, and I think that is big for this offense, whether it's Kevin Jennings or Preston Stone. And with this offense, they're going to be facing a defense that is one of the worst in the entire country. And specifically in the run game, SMU is going to need their group to step up a little bit this week, because if you are with a backup quarterback, how do you kind of help him along? You do need a strong ground game, and North Texas is one of the worst rush defenses in the country, as we'll hear from Matthew Brune later on in the podcast. But this rushing attack, they've got to figure out Jalen Knighton, what his role is with his issues holding onto the ball in kind of critical moments, and also just when he gets into those extra yardage, potentially situations, he just isn't really safe with the football. So that's something the coaching staff is going to keep an eye on. They do have LJ Johnson. Tyler Levine scored last week. Kamar Wheaton could be healthy. They've got Velton Gardner still in there. We'll see how they handle the rushing game, but they will be without PJ Williams, the backup left tackle and right tackle. He'll be out. He's also got a concussion. Logan Parr has a sore back, which Rhett Lashley said he's been playing with throughout the season. So some banged up offensive linemen. We'll see how SMU handles that as well. But this is a team that has done pretty well weathering the injury bug. On the defensive side, they will have Brandon Crosley available. They will have Isaiah Wacobia, who had the game-sealing interception against Rice. They'll have him available. Brian Massey is getting closer and closer. They will potentially play with him, but it sounds like the coaching staff would love to have him, again, kind of get another week of rest, because shoulders are kind of a difficult thing to play through. So it will be interesting to see what they do there on that front. I saw Jaquandis Burns out there at practice playing with a club on his hand. Guys are battling through things at this time of year. And SMU is no different than a lot of teams in that respect, but I think it just continues to reiterate the overarching point that this team is really close. They're fighting for each other. Rhett Lashley got super emotional talking about the game last week and kind of how it finished up. This is again, a program that is on the cusp of doing something very, very special. And if they can make that happen, they are going to, very much have their selves to thank because they've battled through injuries, because they put the team above themselves. And this is that time of year you've got to battle through things and, make it happen for the bigger goal that's out there. Speaking of battling through, look, it's that time of year. It's starting to cool down, but if it does warm a little bit up in the stretch run of this season, you're going to want a fresh polo on the boulevard or even just heading out to work. And that's why our friends at Red and West have you guys covered. With promo code ACC Ready, you get 10% off your order. They're already relatively affordable polos that they have here at Red and West. They've got that breathable fabric that I've told you guys all season about, and they do a great job just getting it out to you quick. So they could have this to you in time, without a doubt, for the Navy game come Thanksgiving. But they've got the red and the white polo, really sharp looking polos that they've got, and they're going to expand their line come 2024. So I'm really excited about that, to keep working with them. And again, they can help you out. Get ACC Ready with promo code ACC Ready for 10% off your order. Check them out. Great polos. And if you like anything else on their site, check that out. They've got other college programs that they have apparel for as well, for all your family and friends come the holidays. So it's about that time of year. Check them out. redandwest.com. Look, I think when you look at this North Texas game, this is one of those games where I think I like what Eric Morris is doing, the North Texas coach there. He came in with this high-powered offense, and it has clicked. Chandler Rogers has done a really nice job for the Mean Green, putting this together. They've got some wide receivers that they can trust in the passing game, led by Jay Macklin, and they're going to be a team that SMU is going to have to respect and really bring their A game. They can't have that tackling performance that they had last week against Rice, against North Texas, and have the same success. North Texas has a running game. They've got 3 very capable running backs. In addition to Jay Macklin, who's averaging 17.4 yards per catch, they've got Trey Cleveland, Blair Conwright, Damon Ward, Roderick Burns. I mean, they have guys in that room that can make plays. And so for SMU's defense, they're going to have to tackle really well, because it's going to be a lot of getting guys in space and then hoping to hit the big play with guys like Jay Macklin. And again, Chandler Rogers did not start the year as a quarterback. He got put in there, and I think after it wasn't going well against FIU, and from there he's kind of taken off. And so Eric Morris and former SMU defensive lineman Demerick Gary will be, who's the defensive line coach at North Texas now, will be coming into Ford Stadium, looking to end this series for the foreseeable future with a win. And to do that, they're going to have to score some points, because their defense is ranked at the bottom of the NCAA in terms of total defense. They are just not a good group at all. And for SMU, this is an opportunity where if things go your way offensively, the defense on SMU's side of things should be able to slow down North Texas enough. But here's the deal, guys. North Texas is battle tested. They have been through the ringer the last 3 weeks. They've played Memphis, they've played Tulane and UTSA. They've lost all 3, but they've all been one possession games. So they really should have beaten Memphis. They lost 45-42. They had the lead with just seconds remaining, 40 seconds, I think. You can argue that they should have beat Tulane as well. And then UTSA, same thing. They lost by 8 at home last week to the Roadrunners. And so similar to Rice, they're going to have a mentality where They can play with SMU. They're not going to be intimidated. And the biggest thing here is SMU needs to get up, get going early. Again, 8 o'clock, chilly night. Get your offense going, regardless who's that quarterback. Get the defense to get cooking. Get some pressure on Chandler Rogers. All those things, and jump on them early. Not only that, North Texas is really a second half team. They've done a nice job making games competitive down the stretch. So that's something SMU is going to have to do and keep an eye on in terms of that halftime adjustments. North Texas is good at them. They are not having the season that they want. They're 3-6. They're 1-4 in the American, but they've played with everybody that has been of a certain caliber in this American conference. They've played the murderer's row of the 4 top teams in the league once they get done with SMU on Friday. It's a game that is a regional one, close by. A lot of guys on North Texas, a lot of familiar names for me, just from a recruiting standpoint, watching this group come together. And, they are in year one of a defense that has given SMU some issues. It's the Tulsa Joe Gillespie kind of style defense with the odd robber look. That's kind of a 3-3-5 stack, but not really. It's just, that's the easiest way to explain it. And it's given SMU some issues. The issue for North Texas is they don't have the personnel up front right now to really run this defense at a high level. They are the worst rushing defense in the country. That shows. SMU has got to run the football, commit to it, run it down their throat, and then they should be able to, exploit the secondary because of that ability to run the football. It would not shock me, and this is just me guessing, but whether it's Preston Stone or Kevin Jennings at quarterback, it wouldn't be surprising for me. Obviously, SMU would love to, have an explosive, just absolutely kill them type of game and it never be in doubt. But it wouldn't shock me if we saw a little bit of that absolutely control the number of opportunities that North Texas has offensively, because you don't necessarily want to get into a shootout. If your SMU defense gets a few stops, this game theoretically should be over. So I'm watching for that as SMU gets ready to host North Texas Friday night, 8 p.m. Central. It's the first round of the Texas High School Football Playoffs. So if you're a subscriber to ontheponyexpress.com, I'm not sure what the recruiting turnout is going to be, but we'll have that covered for you if they do host some visitors. Obviously, some teams not making the playoffs will impact that, but we'll have all of that covered for you guys as SMU gets ready for North Texas. But before we send it over to our interview with my On3 colleague, Matthew Brune, who also does the Green Room podcast for Dave Campbell's, I've got to tell you guys about our friends at Game Time. GameTime.co or the Game Time app is the perfect way to get those last minute deals on tickets. And it's so easy. And let me tell you guys, use the promo code PONY for $20 off your first order, first of all. But the big thing for me is my wife and I told you guys this a while ago, but as you're listening to this, I'm actually doing a little quick trip to Florida. And we're going to go see Bill Burr, one of our favorite comedians. And the great part of this is that we used Game Time a while ago. It was just 2 taps. We talked with my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law about what tickets we wanted. And then it was boom, boom, 2 taps. That's the easiest ticket buying experience you can find. So you don't have to worry about buying tickets and how stressful the process can be when you're looking at your next event, whether it's sports, concerts, whatever. They have killer last minute deals. Of course, we wanted to plan because we're flying, but they have the all-in prices listed, so no hidden fees. They can show you the view from your seat. I'm showing you guys some of the tickets available for the SMU-North Texas game. Boom, you've got the flash deal too. There you go, $25 with 10% off, 120 row 3. Not a bad view there from that seat. So check them out, gametime.com or gametime.co, and the Game Time app. The Game Time app is in particularly very easy. It's just 2 taps to purchase tickets. They give you that lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, etc. All those things. So I love the Game Time app. It's the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. And use that Game Time guarantee. That's the best part. If you find tickets elsewhere in the same section or row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code PONY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create that account, download that app, redeem code PONY, PONY for $20 off. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. That's Game Time. With that, guys, we are going to throw it over to our interview and preview with Matthew Brune of the Green Room. I've got SMU winning 45-17, I think is what I said in that. And so we'll be watching it with you guys at ontheponyexpress.com. Subscribe for just $1 for all the coverage on the Mustangs as they head down the stretch, hoping to win an AAC championship. Friday night would go a long way to setting up a massive game against Memphis next week. They've got to get this one against the Mean Green. Enjoy the preview with Matthew Brune. I'm Billy Embody. Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I'm Billy Embody. With me is Matthew Brune. He covers North Texas for the Green Room podcast. And yeah, there you go. A UNT grad, friend of the program. Welcome back, Matthew Brune.
Yes, thank you for having me, Billy. This is like old times. This was back in 2017. We were reaching out to each other, talking North Texas and SMU.
Pre-COVID, as we like to say, pre-COVID. Lots has changed on that front. Matthew covers LSU with me on the Bengal Tiger as well. So we're both wearing the hats of covering the Tigers and then covering our alma maters as well. So a lot of fun doing that. Let's jump into previewing SMU North Texas. Give me kind of the elevator pitch about UNT this season, because 3-6, but I just feel like this is a team that's better than their record. They're sitting at 1-4 in the American right now.
Yeah, elevator pitch. I'll make it positive then. North Texas offense is legitimately really solid. It's really under Eric Morris. That was the hope. Obviously, you hire an offensive coordinator type guy, a Mike Leach disciple. You're like, okay, can the offense be good year one? And it has been. Chandler Rogers at quarterback is, I mean, for my money, just watching him and, watching a lot of quarterbacks across the country, it's hard to get a good quarterback. And Chandler Rogers has lived up to every sort of billing that I've had for him to this point in the year. 21 touchdowns, 3 picks. He single-handedly kind of brought them back in games against Tulane, Memphis. And so he's been fantastic. And, speaking of those games, I kind of told you on the phone, but it felt like under Seth Luttrell, it was very much, all or nothing. You might be able to get an upset or something like that in a big game, but most of the time, North Texas was losing by 20 plus points. They're against the spread numbers were awful. And, under Eric Morris, it's baby steps, and they're at least keeping it close with Memphis, Tulane, UTSA, all single one possession losses. And, arguably should have won the Memphis game, had the lead with 40 seconds left. But yeah, that's the positives. I'm sure we'll talk about the negatives in terms of defense or whatnot on this SMU podcast. But yeah, that's the elevator pitch.
The Chandler Rogers has been awesome this year. A lot of fun for North Texas fans to watch him. A very, very good start offensively for Eric Morris. I got to spend some time around him at the Texas High School Coaches Convention, and also former SMU defensive lineman Demerick Gary on staff there as the defensive line coach for the Mean Green. This offense, though, they also have a little bit of a run game that can get going. What is that group like? Because it seems like they have 3 backs who have been pretty productive, all over averaging over 5 yards a carry this year.
Yeah, that's the thing with when it was the Seth Luttrell team. After Mason Fine left and they didn't have a quarterback, couldn't figure anything out. He just went, all right, we're just going to run the ball. So he got a bunch of solid running backs, recruited offensive linemen that could run block and just, ran the ball. And, that those traits are still there in Iowa Day and Oscar Attaway, who was a really good prospect out of Arkansas when he committed a few years ago. So you have those two as like your main two. Isaiah Johnson is another back that's pretty good. They don't even have a Kika Ragsdale, who was one of the guys continuing to be a starter going into the season. He got injured a couple games into the year. But yeah, the run game averaging over 5 yards per carry. It's given them good balance. Rodgers can also use his legs very effectively, and that's been a big thing for this offense, is having balance, and it's opened it up really well.
A lot of familiar names catching the football too. Blair Conright is one. Jay Macklin, Trey Cleveland. These are a lot of guys that I just remember coming up through the ranks. Tell me a little bit about Macklin, though. SMU coming off of playing Luke McCaffrey, they were able to hold him to a very minimal impact. But Jay Macklin's also a guy, 17 and a half basically yards per catch, 44 receptions, 766 yards, 11 touchdowns. It seems clear as an outsider that the passing attack really kind of runs through him and it helps everybody else.
Yeah, I went into the year having major expectations for Jamori Macklin. I mean, this is a guy, like you said, I mean, pretty highly rated as a prospect, went to Missouri, didn't get burned there initially, transfers to North Texas. Last year kind of was on and off the field, but it was just obvious to me that this dude can play at a high level. And in an offense like this, when you get a receiver that is this talented, you got to just feed him. And so you get Jamori Macklin on the outside. He has 11 touchdown grabs, 766 yards. He's been phenomenal. A real explosive player as well. So you have him, and then you have kind of the more of possession route running type guys with Rod Burns and Damon Ward. So I like them. And then Trey Cleveland has kind of come on as of late, a transfer from Texas Tech. So the receiver room as a whole, it lost Jair Shorter, who's been kind of a stalwart over the past couple years. He went to Auburn. And I think Jamori Macklin stepped up in that role and been a really, really good playmaker. He's been the guy that Rodgers trusts the most by far of all of them.
When you look at the staples of an Eric Morris offense, what have you seen so far from him this season?
Yeah, it's taken a while. It took a while for especially like the running backs to learn how to catch balls, because like I said, under Latrell, they were like having like 2 catches a season each. And it's like, okay, now you're actually going to be utilized a little bit more in that regard. They're still not, exclusively throwing to running backs as much as like a Mike Leach offense would, but that's kind of an example. And then I think I mentioned the offensive line being they returned a lot of talent, added a couple transfers, but it was very much a run first offensive line. So now you're seeing them, pass protect in different ways they haven't had to. You see different types of route concepts on the field, like you would see in an air raid offense. It's just it's night and day from what they were running under Seth Luttrell. And so that's why going into the year is like, okay, this offense could be good, but with all the changes, all the personnel changes and all the schematic changes, it's hard to have expectations of them being elite. But I think the offense to this point, I don't think they've been elite, but they've been very, very good. Able to score points on Tulane, like I said, Memphis, even UTSA. So have to be pleased with the offense, and the way that they're attacking gives you optimism moving forward that, hey, Eric Morris in the American, can put together an offense that can compete with, anybody else here.
Let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball.
Let's not do that.
Defensive coordinator Matt Capone has come in, and it hasn't been pretty. It's a big adjustment going to this scheme that they're going to. It is a major change. We've seen that for programs who have tried to go to it. And right now, it just seems like it might be a little bit of a personnel thing in a way. And because they have Jordan Brown at linebacker, they have Logan Wilson in the back end, they've got Patrick Smith in the back end. But I mean, it's really hard to play this defense without a big physical defensive line.
Yes, that's the main thing. I mean, we know it. I mean, you have to have, in order to play a 3-3-5, like basically a 3-3-5 stack almost. You can mold it to where you have a jack linebacker and stuff. You can move the linebackers around, but ultimately those 5 defensive backs are so far off the ball in a lot of situations that you're basically in a lot of times in a 5-man box, 6-man box, and saying, all right, we're going to try to win 6-on-6. You don't have a plus hat in the box anymore. And so North Texas does not have the defensive linemen. I think they have capable defensive linemen, but not in this scheme. The scheme, it just doesn't fit what they want to do. And so as a result, you're having problems like we've seen, kind of LSU have those tackling problems with the safeties, where you have those safeties come down and they're not good enough to really make those plays on a consistent basis. So you have a ton of missed tackles. The linebacker room, also the defensive, roster got kind of gutted a little bit with Deshaun Gaddy going to Ole Miss. Larry Nixon, a late transfer to Auburn. He's been really good for Auburn. So, you lose those guys, and they really didn't bring in many transfers in year one of Eric Morris on the defense side of the ball. So it's like, all right, now we're kind of scraping the barrel a little bit to guys who were second string last year, maybe having to step up this year. So the talent, I don't think, is there. The fit schematically is not there. And overall, it's going to take them a while to figure out how to, get the defense on the same page. I assume that, he'll keep Capone long term, but this has definitely been a wake up call, I think, for them to be like, all right, we do not have the personnel to do this. But I do think they've shown flashes at least this year. I think in games like Navy, in games, I don't even count Temple as a game because I mean y'all saw what Temple looked like without their quarterback. I don't consider that as a game, but UTSA second half, I think they held them in like more than half their possessions. So they've shown flashes of getting better. I think they're learning it, but they do not have the personnel to be a good defense right now.
You mentioned those flashes. What are some of the flashes that you've sat there and said, oh, that is something that you can work with long term, that you like to see? Where are you kind of seeing those, just the flashes, I guess? Because I didn't think like some of the scores were like outlandish, like they were allowing like 65 points. Is it just they just give up a bunch of yards?
Oh yeah, and the run defense is the worst in the country by far. They cannot stop the run for anything. But it's like in the first half against Tulane, they were down 21-0. Second half, they come back, they tie the game at 28 apiece. And so it's like they're putting together stops, especially in the second half of games. Did a similar thing against UTSA, similar thing against Memphis, where they'll be down at halftime and then they'll make an adjustment, and they seem like they're able to make those adjustments on the fly. They don't allow a point in the third quarter to Memphis. They allow only 7 in like through like a quarter and a half. So they're able to make those adjustments. I think the run game, even though it's the worst in the country, it's kind of like just big runs that teams rip off on them. And then in the second half, they settle down. They don't give up the big runs. They're able to get them on third down. So I've been like impressed with the way the defense has shown resilience and been able to kind of get some PBUs with, Rich Tejada at corner going in was an all-conference player. I still think he's a pretty good corner. And I think the safeties have gotten better as the year's gone on as well. And then, like you said, Jordan Brown, I saw him as a freshman. He's a junior now. I saw him as a freshman. I was like, that guy was a 3-star prospect. I said, he can play at this level. His first 2 years, he was kind of buried. And now with Nixon gone, I think he's stepped up in a big way. So those are kind of the flashes that you see is they struggle early in a lot of games, and then they figure it out and they come back in the second halves.
Do you have a prediction for Friday night? Spreads, I think 17
or 17 and a half. Something.
Matty B does all of our like final lines, finds the best bets, and he's pretty good at this, guys. So
Terrified.
Listen up.
What I think
they're gonna drag you anyway, I'm sure.
Yeah, the total was pretty low, or at least it felt low, because I do think SMU gets to high 30s at the very least. I would say something like 38-24. And SMU, similar to the last 3 games, I wouldn't be surprised if SMU led like 21-3 going to halftime, and then North Texas is able to, hey, put something together to make it respectable at the end.
But I do think that a little bit. They've battled back in the second half.
Yeah, North Texas. That's what the 3 games: Tulane, Memphis, UTSA. 3 straight games. We called this the stretch of death because they played the 4 best teams in the conference in succession, which is terrible. But 3 straight games of 1 possession losses by 7, 3, and 8. SMU is the most balanced, I think, of those 3. So I don't think they keep it within 1 score, but I'll be, I guess, an optimist and say 14, 38-24.
There you guys have it. SMU, UNT, Friday night, a nice 8 o'clock kick. Matthew enjoys the night owl moments, so
Love
I'm
it.
sure you'll be all over that. We'll be watching. Matty B will be watching as well. Thank you so much for joining the On the Pony Express podcast.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU-On3 and on Instagram at On3SMU. And keep it locked to OnThePonyExpress.com for more coverage.